One of the kids would say, "Oh, come on, can't we open our gifts?" The adults would look at each other and said, "Oh, maybe we should make pancakes. I know we had waffles, but let's take a moment." And they would say, it just added 5 minutes onto it, So they knew better. They sat there quietly. They were waiting. Food had been eaten minutes and minutes and minutes ago. They're just sitting there. "Do you want seconds?" No, we don't want seconds. "Oh, you want some cinnamon rolls?" No, don't want the cinnamon rolls. You eat yours, though. Go ahead, eat yours. Finally, Uncle Ed's posture changed a little bit. You could tell. Take a big breath, and he leaned his chair back just a little bit, and he looked at the kids whom he adored. He said, "Well, I guess it's time." By the time he said that, chairs were hitting the back wall as the kids were running through that narrow little door. You know how they used to make these homes, little thin doors and little rooms. And they all hit at the same time. They couldn't get through them. Finally, they burst through, and by the time the adults got in there, the air was filled with, you would have thought, sawdust at a paper mill. I mean, they're ripping and they're pulling, but not Gail. Gail has always been a special little soul. She loved Christmas. She didn't mind it taking all the time because she hated it when it was over. So when she found her packages, she would just roll back the tape from all the corners. And Uncle Ed was standing at the door because this year he had money in the game. He was invested. He wanted to see the payoff. The payoff was that look when Gail saw what was in the box. So he goes, "Gail, just rip the paper." "No, Uncle Ed, I can do crafts and all kinds of things with this paper." And she would unfold it and fold it together and set it to the side. Finally, she opened up the top and it was covered with packing material. "Oh, Uncle Ed, this must be really special. Look how well it's packed." And so she pulled it out. But before she threw it down, she goes, "Maybe there's something in this material." So she took the time to unfold all the crinkled paper. "No, there's not. I thought maybe a marble would be in there or something." She kept one, and Uncle Ed he was going, "Okay, I guess I deserve it. She's getting me back, for having to wait." Finally, she was ready, and her head disappeared into that box. And then the payoff money picture came up of that face as she looked to Uncle Ed with a look of puzzlement and hurt. You see, the box was empty. She thought to herself, honestly, I've been a good girl this year. Why would he do that to me? Why would I get a gift like that? Well, Uncle Ed, he was not happy with what he got. He pushed through all the other kids. He goes, "Let me look." And his head disappeared into the box and came up with the same look of confusion. What in the world? And then it dawned on him. He had told one of his employees, "Go get one of those special gifts that we had put." How they used to always put the plate windows, and you'd put the red radio, the BB guns on display at Christmas time. Well, he had his employee went back and just got the box and put it in his truck. Didn't notice. He didn't know what it was. Didn't know if it was heavy enough or not. They wrapped it all up for him and everything. He put it by the tree. He had wrapped an empty box because the item was in the storefront window. And he looked at Gail and he goes, "Listen, Gail, take my hand. I'm going to make this right. Jackson, go get my truck keys." And they all jumped into his truck, and he drove on a totally empty streets there on Christmas morning with black ice and everything, slowly maneuvering down to the hardware store. He put his key in the front door, and then he paused. He said, "Gail, I want you to know that when we go in here, we're not just going to go in here to get what was in that box. I want you to know that once we go in, anything you want in the store, is yours. Where are all my children here today? Raise your hands. They were up here for the children's story. Raise your hands. Where are you? I say we tell your parents they should do the same thing for you. I say you heard it here. And Gail told me, when she told me the story, she says, it was the best Christmas I ever had. And I said, well, then give me the kicker. What did you get that made it the grace? And she goes, I don't even remember what I got that year. And I said, well, what made it the best year? Uncle Ed. Says, when I opened that box, I discovered that I had someone who really loved me that was watching over me. And that when he saw that I was hurt, he couldn't bear it. And that he took me by the hand to a place where only he could satisfy, and he made it all right. How many empty boxes have you opened this year? Maybe that promotion you wanted, you got it, and it just still didn't make you happy. Maybe you thought if you could get out of that one house and buy another house, everything would be right. No. There's a lot of empty boxes in our lives. But Christmas reminds us that there is someone who is always watching, who will take us by the hand if we'll let him, to a place where only he can satisfy, where paraplegics can sing praise, where divorcees who have lost the love that they've committed to can find a love in a heavenly Father, orphaned children who can find parental bliss in someone as simple as a school teacher or a Sabbath school teacher. Dear friends, no matter what kind of boxes you have in life, even the ones that fulfill your needs, will never reach as far or more deeply impact you than having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. To always be looking over your shoulder and knowing he's there when you hurt and when you rejoice as well. Include him in your rejoicing. And don't criticize him in your pain, but include him as a solution to that pain, as a peace giver, as a balm in Gilead. Can he make it more simple for you? So many times the descriptions of Jesus is all about restoration and renewal and fixing and healing. And yet when we are the most broken, we get bitter at life and bitter at God, and the one person who can give meaning and insight and cure is pushed away. So the baby Jesus says, come on, don't be afraid of me. I'm just a little baby. Come and let me be part of your family and know me for who I am, the one who knows your every heart's pain. I don't know why I felt impressed to give that story, tell that story. It's a Christmas story that I've told in years past, but because I know I'm probably going a little bit long, but I hope there's someone here that means something to. You see, God has a way of reaching out to you. That story may have only been told just for you. That makes you pretty important in God's eyes, doesn't it? And so let's love one another. Of all the people on the planet who are opening empty boxes, it's the children of the world that my heart breaks for. You see, 37 years ago, I went on my first World Vision trip to see what they do. And for over 80 years, World Vision has been feeding, educating, and providing medical care for children who are the most disenfranchised, the most at risk, the most humble, the most unable to affect anything that affects them. These vulnerable ones that Jesus' heart goes out to, they are suffering like unbelievable. And I saw for the first time in my trip, and I've been 12 times to Uganda, Nicaragua, and Honduras, and Vietnam, and on and on and on. And I've seen such poverty that no church mission trip has ever seen. I say that with great confidence because I've gone on many mission trips with churches. We go to safe areas. We see poverty, absolutely. But World Vision, if I am going to stand before you this morning and encourage you to give up $1.33 a day to feed and save the life of the child, they want me to know exactly what's at stake. So we've been to places where military guard has had to go with us. We have had to run for our lives in areas where gangs had infiltrated and had not been properly cleared out by the government before we went in. We've sat and heard stories of little girls, now young women, sold into slavery. We've seen the misery in the face of parents. And there is no way in the world I can convey the terror of what I saw to you. That's the sad part for me. It's just not possible. When you're in some of these places, there is a smell to fear and terror. That's the only way I can describe it. It's different. It's like I'm on a different planet, breathing a different atmosphere. There is a sound that reverberates in the grass and in the leaves of the trees that is foreboding of desperation and hurt and misery. And so we see these places, and we will spend about 4 or 5 days, sometimes walking for miles and miles and miles through rice paddies. And then we spend the next 4 or 5 days going to places where World Vision has walked in with your $1.33 and have put up schools and hospitals and organized the community, created clean water, housing, education in Indonesia, little girls were getting pregnant, and they and their children were dying simply because they were so deemed worthless in their culture that no one would have ever thought to teach them how to read or to count coins. And if they could have read a bus schedule and had coins and knew how to pay 3 cents to ride the bus, they could have had access to all the medical care possible. But no one cares. This is what I live with, and why I, at 68 years of age, am singing the best I can wherever they'll let me sing. And until the Lord comes, as long as people don't get up and leave because I'm singing so bad, I'm going to keep singing so I can get to this moment. Because this is why God gifted me with the gift of song. And for 37 years, over 4,000 children have been educated, fed, and medical needs met. This morning, I want to invite you to join Joni and I in sponsoring a child. For 37 years, Joni and I have sponsored 3 children. And that's been tough. For 7 years, we didn't even have health insurance for our own children, because I've been unemployed, nonprofit gospel singer, living off of offerings that we'll take as you leave today. But it's different when you've seen it. You can't unsee it. And so when COVID came, Joni and I, we knew how to tighten our belts. We put one car with no insurance and took the license tag, saved that expense. We stopped our satellite TV services, and we've yet to ever reinstate that. That was $100 a month. We kept going, $30, $60, $100, cutting things like crazy, because my music ministry ended overnight when COVID hit. And any income that came in support of my family was gone. We're okay. We ate a lot of rice and beans. But never for a moment did we consider stopping our $39 a month in support of our 3 children. Because no matter what I might go through, it is nothing compared to what I've seen. And so it's a great joy. I wish I could tell you all the stories of the World Vision children I've met in foyers after concerts. Men and women who've come up to me and said things like, you know, if it wasn't for World Vision, nothing but a swarm of flies would have known I existed on this planet. But I was given hope. I was given education, a path out of poverty. And it's all because one person figured they could live without $1.33 a day. Dear friends, I want you to know that if you wanted to sponsor a child today, but you've worried about the organizations and agencies, listen, for 37 years, I've checked out all their finances. I've been on site in 12 of their countries. There'll never be a more honest endorsement than you hear right now. And here's the thing, if you want to sponsor a child today and pay that first month of $39, if you change your mind, you never have to pay another one. If you get home and look at God doesn't want you to be financially irresponsible, but if you make a decision and it's a sacrifice, but you decide you can't, all you have to do is call and cancel it. My sweet 94-year-old mother, every time I have a concert, she sponsors a child, and then in about 3 years, she ends it because of medical bills are building up or whatever. Then she'll come to a concert, sponsor a child. In 3 years, she'll stop it. So it's an easy process. I happen to know that's true because of my mom. But stepping into that moment, that opportunity, is something that will tell your psyche that you've heard God's call and you've responded to it. And that's what defines you as a follower of Christ. He said to us in the parable, when you've done it unto the least of these, when you've given them food, when you've given them clothing, when you've given them water, in that parable, he says, when you've done it unto them, you have done it to me, he says. God is taking this commission to help the needy very personally, isn't he? And he says, when you've done it, consider that as if you've actually done it to me. That's how important it is to me. So as we close today, I'll be out there with some wonderful folks who are going to help me out there at the table. We've got 120 children from all over the world. Find one that's got ears like your husband. Maybe it's a sign. Or from a nation, or an age, or a look. Or maybe like so many people go, they'll come up to the table and says, I can't make a decision, just hand me one. And take home. It's $39 a month. It's a simple process. There's a little child folder here. And please don't pick one up and take it home. I'm the only one with this child with the responsibility of finding a sponsoring family or an individual. So don't take it home thinking it's a flyer. If you find one you want, you open it up. There's a perforated card. Take 60 seconds, write your name and address, your credit card number on there, and then give that to me or anyone at the table. And then you can take this home. Wouldn't it be great to put this as an ornament on your Christmas tree this year? because it shows that you didn't leave Jesus out when you were buying presents. You bought the birthday boy himself a present by sponsoring a child. Maybe do it for a year and just see if you can actually make your house payment if you are so extravagant as to spend $1.33 on a child somewhere on the planet. When you sponsor a child, Joni and I have decided to do something pretty extreme. We've got 5 CDs, my CDs. We'd like to give them a $70 value. We'd like to give it to you as our gift to you when you sponsor a child. And if you sponsor 3 children, you get 3 of these, and you can give them you can break them apart and give them as stocking stuffers or whatever you want to do. But please be sure to take one of those before you go home. I'd like to close by singing a song that's dedicated to the work that World Vision is doing around the world. And I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come and celebrate the wonders and the glories of Christmas through some of these great songs with you. God bless you. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high. Don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer will still be heard. I believe that someone in that great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry or touch a leaf or see the sky, then I know why I believe. Walk on, in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. No, you'll never walk alone. The little girl in the red dress is one of the 50 or more that we've sponsored through the decades. Her name is Maria. She borrowed that dress to come and meet us, and she says, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor so I can buy my mommy a red dress. So it's so great to know and to get her picture every year updated, her report cards every quarter.